each individual has got their own style, perceptions, attitudes, motivations, internals and external factors which influence their personality. So hence, for any organization, improving people's skill is a challenge. Quality and productivity is another challenge, wherein the organizational behavior, organization strives regularly in order to improve the quality and productivity by re-engineering the present process and making it more attractive and meaningful in line with the present situation. Managing workforce diversity, yes, the kind of employees or individuals' identity, where they come from, cultural identity, values, lifestyles, the working attitudes, common guidelines, rules, and regulations. This being a major challenge for an organization to accommodate all these diversified groups of people under one, lifestyle, family. I mean, of course, they cannot influence all this, but yet the organization has a big challenge in dealing with such people coming from various, corners in order to join the organization. So making it meaningful and making them comfortable is a big challenge. Responding to globalization. The effects of, managerial, we happen to observe the impact of globalization, how is both the advantages and disadvantages we have in with respect to globalization. Now, being being responsive to this and making individuals working in an organization comfortable, meaningful, and challenging, making their jobs challenging is quite a challenging task. If you look at this example, which says that more than 95% of Nokia handphones are being sold outside of their home country. Then Finland, Japanese cars are being sold in different parts of globe. Sri Lanka tea is exported to many countries from one subsidiary to another more frequently. So given this kind of situation, it is a big a challenge to an organization to hold people from coming from various diversities, joining hands with them, and then at the same time making it more meaningful, comfortable journey for any person who's working, any individual working with the organization. Empowering a people is very, it deals with the delegation of power and responsibility to the subordinates, employees who are working, especially in the manufacturing operations, so that this kind of delegation of authority make people solve the problems immediately and understand the method of work-related problems. Thereby, it can encourage employees in making them realize the participative. Yet again, this being a challenge, because the executives here learn to delegate the task to the subordinates and make it more responsible. But the process, the kind of employees bring changes in the type of leadership styles. They happen to, the way they work, the style that they adopt for their working is designed based upon the organization's structure. So again, there is a challenge in changing this present structure. Next, coping with the temporariness. In this today's world of change and existing activity or an existing structure which is adopted by the organization is difficult to change, which has been managed by, which has been followed by the individuals in an organization, and to change such ongoing activity is the most challenging task for any manager. Okay. Yeah, everyone in the organization faces some temporary, or temperness. Sometimes it is okay, and sometimes it is not ignored. Then, if a person holds a permanent style of, temporariness, then workers have to continually update their knowledge and skills so as to perform to the in line with the organizational goals and the requirements of their job. If they do not, then it is a challenge to the organization, who in turn has to facilitate them to understand the significance of their change and balance uh, their style so that they come in line with the organization, which is quite a challenging job for a manager. Stimulating innovations and change is another challenge. This generation, we see people across have lots of zeal to work with organization. They are happy to hear the victories. They are happy to hear the quality incentives in the form of they would like to move on from one level to another level. So candidates have their own distinguished characters to be played in an organization. Organizations have to maintain flexibility, and without discouraging any, it is supposed to continuously improve the quality and manage to beat the competition in the marketplaces. And this probably may encourage the innovations across from each and every individual in an organization. But that is again a difficult task, because organization cannot accommodate all the improvements in the developments in the form of suggestions, views which are coming to them. So for managers, it is difficult to handle. And given a situation where a manager is ignoring a person's viewpoint, again, it becomes a challenge for a manager to retain his capabilities and the make him continue to be motivated. So that is again a challenging task for a manager. Emergency of e-organization. This is a shift which is being mostly found adopted by the organization, where from the traditionally conventional way of working style, people are changing, the organization is shifting towards the e-organization, where at the beginning they need to, firstly ensure that the people are comfortable, equipped with the knowledge, understand the culture, or understand what contribution they have, etc. Otherwise, it becomes difficult to manager to shift from conventional way to the e-status. From the conventional way in adoption of the new, e-commerce platforms, and re-engineering its complete process by adopting the various technology in at various levels. Improving ethical behavior. Ethical behavior is supposed to be followed. Of course, these dilemmas require to define right or wrong, provided if the employees of any company is, managing the ethical behavior, organization doesn't have to concentrate much on, but yet this in practice doesn't seems to happen, because here improving ethical behavior constantly and continuously will enable a manager to make people productive in a positive way, without creating any conflicts among the groups, individuals, and in the organization, without disturbing the structure and the flow of communication. If this exists, again, it is a challenging job for a manager to understand the very source of these kind of behaviors and trace it out and make certain changes in the existing style of working environment. Then these are the few challenges which every manager happens to face in an organization. Then we have another topic on disciplines that contribute to organizational behavior. If you all remember in the previous class, we understood how organizational behavior is not just confined to an organization where it studies or makes people how to work, what to do, manages them, etc. But it extends in understanding the psychology, sociology, anthropology, etc. We discussed in yesterday's class. And so in line with that, we have a separate segment on disciplines that contribute to the organizational behavior. And here comes the psychology as a subject which strives to focus on understanding or is more concerned with individual behavior in an organization, how an individual decision making, motivation, personality, perceptions, attitudes, and job satisfaction, appraisals in an organization, opinion, design, all this kind, conflicts, work style management, stress, all this, the study, if is been focused on understanding individual, there are very quite enough theories which shows how psychology can be better understood of an individual in an organization. Okay, then we have another discipline which is social psychology, which is again focused on the people's, how they influence on one another. Okay, and in this, the changing attitude, identifying the patterns of communications, how the flow of communication is happening, is being studied and focused on to contribute to the group behaviors, powers, and conflicts, finally by the managers. And sociology, again, sociology is focusing on particularly the formal and the complex organizations, which has included its structure, the technology, communications, powers, and conflicts, how it is managed, and what best can be used. All these are studies. Then we have anthropology as a subject, which is connected to the organization behavior, which is again work. It is like, you work on environment and the culture, which helps to understand the differences which emerged because of the attitudes, values, behavior, lifestyles of the people, etc. By understanding anthropology as a subject of an and applying it at an organization will enable managers to this will enable managers to understand how individual is working and contributing productively towards the organization, thereby making him or individual, him or her, productive towards the goal of the organization. And then we have political science as a subject, which is again connected to be well versed with political science subject, which involves subject concentration here is on how a conflict has been resolved, group coalition, allocation of power, and how people manipulate power in their self-interest. So these kind of political science subjects also will enable an organization to better understand people and their behavior with respect to conflicts, self-interest, power, using of power, allocation of power, etc. Then at the end of this unit, you can see there are certain self-assessment questions which you can all attempt to this. And then we have some keywords and model examination questions. There are case studies which are quite interesting. I would suggest you all of to go through the case studies and ensure that you are well equipped with these case studies. And at the end of each case study, you have got some questions. And there are 2 case studies. So here we got certain questions at the end of the case studies. Try to answer. The knowledge that you gained in learning unit 1 will help you to understand this case studies better, and you being in the foods of a manager for a given company, how would you react? How would you shoulder your responsibility, render your services to the organization's development and growth is all, depends on depending on the question, you can answer these case study questions. Yes, let's move on to the next unit, that is the module of organizational behavior. In this block 1, we have 2 units, and the first unit has been covered, and the second unit is concentrating on the focus of the second unit is on the theories. Okay, in among all the theories which we have in OB, the focused theories here are scientific management. We call it to be a scientific approach. Horton studies, model of organizational behavior, or cognitive behavior and social learning models, basic model of organization, system approach to OB. So mainly you will have scientific management process to be understood, concentrate on Horton studies, cognitive, and finally you have approaches to OB, which can be concentrated. Okay, now these theories, how are they significant in understanding organization behavior? I'll tell you here in this context that these theories have been experimented, and these experimented in a given situation in an organization's or an artificial environment is created to experiment about these theories, and the results of these theories are being put meaningfully for people to understand and adopt these kind of situations in their organization, and suggestions can be developed. Now, there are several theories, as you can see, but why are these so many theories existing? Because see, one theory which was initiated earlier days had been criticized on some grounds, which has given rise to another theory. So on and so forth, we find so many revised version. Like, if we start with learning what is scientific approach, the criticism, which it doesn't cover some disciplines, some aspects, challenges it has got. So all this has given rise to another theory. So likewise, the theories have been developed which are more popular and convenient, easy for any organization to adopt in understanding the behavior of individuals in their organization and what best they can do in a given situation. Here we have Adam Smith in the year 1776. He has advised in organizational structure, which is based on division of labor. Then came a German sociologist, Max Weber, who has given an organization structure and initiated the concept of leadership. Okay, then there are several other developments which have contributed and have been marked on. That's like Max Weber. And in 1890s, Taylor's representing the movement of, scientific management. Then we had Frederick Winsley, who introduced a systematic use of goal setting and rewards in order to, improve the performance of the people working in an organization. And we also happen to see some scientific management rationales which contribute to the organization. This has been continuously developing. Now you can see in the year 1776, where it was proposed, advised by the Adam Smith, and then later in the year 1920. So continuously there have been developments which have been contributing in developing the subjects of organizational behavior. And in the year 1920, if you can see, Elton Mayo, the Australian Harvard professor, conducted various productive theories, experiments, and his popular experiments are named by his name, Western Electric Hawthorne Plant, which is an epic. All right. Then we have many other prominent scholars like Chester Barnard, Henry Fayol, Mary Parker Follett, Frederick Hesberg, Abraham Maslow, David McClellan, and Victor Vroom. And all these theories you would be learning in the organizational behavior, which have been very popular in and adopted by the organizations. Okay, let's now start understanding what is scientific management. Okay, basically scientific management is guidelines, like a principles. It is based on a principle which is proposed by Taylor, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor, who is considered to be the father of scientific management. And he experimented in 3 companies, and the names of 3 companies are given here: Midvale Steel Company, Simon's Rolling Machine, and Bethlehem Steel. And on these, based on his observations and finding, he has propounded these principles. And on these principles lies the complete scientific management theory. Okay. And here we have replacing a rule of thumb, harmony in group action, cooperation, non-individualism, maximum output, development of workers. Taylor told that do not stick with one technique. Okay, people stick only to one age-old technique of working in their work style. But Taylor proposed that no, sticking to one will hinder the talent of another. So continuously there should be efforts put in to understand the change which is supposed to happen, and the techniques also which are adopted in order to perform a particular task should be accordingly changed and adopted. Harmony in group action. Father Taylor in scientific management has proposed that in group action, there should be in harmony among the workers who are working without, and there should not be any disputes between the workers, and should be handled carefully. Cooperation, not individualism. Yes. Individually, you should not say, I am like this, or I am, of this kind of style, etc. There should be cooperation and complete cooperation among different departments and among the different workers. Because here, all the departments are interdependent and interdependent of each other in an organization. So here there should be a spirit of cooperation rather than internal competitions. So avoid giving competitions to one another. Maximum output. What is maximum output? It is product. It is related to productivity instead of restricted production either by management or by worker. It involves continuous increase in the production. Next, we have development of workers. So here the workers should be ensured that they develop themselves continuously. High priority should be given, and thereby they, if they are developing themselves in a better form by attending various conferences, workshops which are being conducted by the organizations. The training programs are conducted at workplace. This is a regular practice, and for which they get some points. Once they attend all this, they are subject to certain incentives, etc. So that way, the Taylor has proposed that continuously the workers are should show improvements and developments in an organization, and for which the organization has to arrange all these kinds of workshops, trainings, and in order to attain these programs also, they need to be provided with continuous the required arrangements, necessity arrangements should be done. And the techniques or the methods of scientific management is work study, which involves studying the group of people working, and assessment is based upon the efficiency of operations in an enterprises. Of course, this is a generic technique because it is mostly to investigate the factors which affect the efficiency and the economy of operations. So this includes method study, which is finding the best possible way in performing a job, how a job can be performed. Given a job, there can be several ways to perform it, but which one is the best to perform given the factors of production, considering the various other factors which influences productivity, etc. One has to select the best one. Similarly, is time study, motion study, and fatigue study, which involves in focusing on management's performance appraisals. And motion study works on the speeding up of work, how best the work can be speed up. And the fatigue study, fatigue study is all about how the workers are resting, how long they're continuously working, how much resting periods are. Then we have intervals, lunch break, etc. So how much it is necessary to make people work better in an organization. So all these studies contribute for the understanding of individual working in an organization, which comes under work study. So work study has method study, time study, motion study, and fatigue study, which focuses on understanding how each one has its own significance. Next, we have standardizations of tools and techniques, equipments which are used. Yes, the various items, materials which are used in the workplace, excuse me, which are used in the workplace. Uh, Here, the father has proposed that there should be standard tools which enables people to work in a better way, and by reducing the wastage which comes out of it, by ensuring time leaps and materials quality productions, it also sometimes enables to reduce the fatigue among the workers, because good sophisticated technology, if used, people are energy, show energy, and with great energy and with great zeal, they also contribute to the productivity. Scientific task setting is another uh, you know um, method to understand, wherein fair days work. So according to him, the standard task will act as a norm, which becomes for any individual working in an organization. If there is no standard set, workers will come any. Of course, there is a time bound. Say, suppose you report on a time and then you leave on a particular time, but during this time which you are spending in an organization, what is that you're doing productively should be accounted for. So scientifically it needs to be. And so if you all can connect to today's world of working style, there is something called productive hours, which has been calculated on an individual, and based on those lines, the incentives and various increments, etc., they would be getting. So productive hours plays an important role in making the people, the individual, also accountable for what he is doing. Then we have scientific setting of wage rates. Wage rates should be fixed. There should not be any gap in inducing or attaining a standard output. Uh, each worker should know what it is, and Taylor has suggested that attracting new high price would encourage the workers to increase the production. So that is one area which managers has to focus on. Then we have scientific recruitment and training. Yes, recruitment and training. And see, nowadays we have an exclusive department of HR which focuses only on recruitment and training. So how best we recruit, the recruitment process is, how best you adopt the recruitment process and training process, that best a candidate is selected for a given job. And you may not more, half of your job is done, manager's job is done when they adopt a proper, scientific recruitment and training um, techniques. Okay, so in order to implement these kind of technique, they should have a proper procedure, right people, and should be selected for a right job. So here, this is the main idea behind recruitment and selecting. Next, we have functional foremanship. Functional foremanship is wherein it involves supervision of a worker at specialist foremans, and this single foreman may not be competent to supervise different functional works effectively. So Taylor suggested that he recommended that 8 foremen in all to control the various aspects of production, like card clerk, a root clerk, time and cost clerk. So at every level, there should be a designation which might have which is given certain functions to perform on. On those lines, they can keep a regular check on the people. So yes, of course, again, executing this and get required performance from the workers again had 4 foremen, that is gang boss, speed boss, repair boss, and inspectors boss are required. So in this way, if the structure of the organization is designed, then the scientifically the organization will definitely contribute in a better way. Then we have mental revolution. According to Taylor, a revolutionary mindset of an employee is required because all the time he will be feeling cooperative, thinkful, beneficial to the both parties, uh, employer and employee. By increasing this, it is you know by contributing towards this, he makes regular efforts to increase the profits and increase the production, which is beneficial for both the parties, the organization as well as individuals. Okay, then we have contributions. How this scientific theory has been contributed. It has developed a rational approach, one being, very logical. Mm, Next, it encourages continuously the best way for individuals to work on a given job. It is discovered with this scientific management that understanding people is how important for any organization, because without understanding their expectations you cannot fix the job properly. Okay, then the time, motion, all these studies will enable them manager to understand how concerned the people are towards the job. And then finally, this scientific management, which is proposed by the Taylor, has been criticized on certain um, aspects. Okay, and those lines where it is being criticized is lot of mechanical view is said to be adopted here in scientific management. Not always it is good, people say. Next is, since it has got a boss approach and at every level managers are to be fixed clerks, 8 foremen or 4 foremen. So that way, if you look at it, as becomes authoritarian approach. Again, scientific standardization of production, which is not so considered for other factors. New method of exploitation, where people are given more priority and they're fixed with the jobs daily basis. All these are various areas where these scientific management is been criticized on. Okay, and this criticism has been given rise to another theory, and here you can see the Hawthorne studies, which is proposed by General Electric Company. There was a plant, Hawthorne plant in Chicago, which was into manufacturing telephone system. Around 30,000 employees at that time were available for the experiment, and these experiments were based on illumination experiment, relay assembly, test room experiments. And these experiments, how they basically, Hawthorne experiments are based on the 4 phases. Okay. Now let's see this first one. The hypotheses were higher the illumination, higher the productivity. They felt that more the illumination, more the productivity would be. But the experiment began with to undertake and find out how levels of illumination, the amount of light at the workplace, that's a physical factor, affects the productivity. So in the experiment, if you look at, a group of workers were chosen out of the 30,000. There were 2 separate groups. One group was exposed to varying intensities of illumination, and this group was named an experimental group as it was subject to experimental changes. There was another group which was called as a controlled group, and it is continued to work under constant intensities of illumination. Now, what happened? The researcher increased the illumination in the experiment group. in the first group. Okay, and both groups increased production. The result shows that both of them have increased production. Now, when the intensity of illumination was decreased, the production continued to increase both the groups. So production is the experimental group decreased only when illumination was decreased to the level of moonlight. Thus, it was concluded that illumination did not have effect on productivity, but something else was interfering with the productive. Therefore, another phase of experiment. So here you can see it was a mixed reaction. It could not depend on the illumination in both the cases, one being experimental and the other being controlled. Productivity happened to show no change. They were contributing. So it was understood that it is not illumination, it is something else which is contributing. Okay, so another next phase was taken up to conduct and find out what is that which has impact on the productivity. And thereby relay assembly test room experiments was conducted. And this was designed to understand the effect of change in various job conditions on group productivity. As the illumination experiment, you understood that it did not show any relationship between the illumination and the production. So two girls were chosen, and these girls were asked to choose 4 more girls as co-workers. Okay, so the group is formed. I hope you understood. 2 girls, and each one has to choose four girls among them as in co-workers. The work was related to assembly of telephone relays. Now, output depended on the speed and continuity with which the girls worked. An observer was appointed as a supervisor to watch as to how the girls were performing. Now, the changes and the results of these experiment was: 1. Incentive system was changed so that the girls' extra pay was based on other 5 rather than the output of larger groups, say 100 or so. So the productivity increase as compared to before. So here it is all about incentives. The moment they understood that it is your performance is based on your incentives, then definitely the productivity has increased. Second being rest intervals. 2 to 5 minutes of rest intervals were given, one in morning and one in the evening. These were then increased to 10 minutes again. Initially 2 to 5 minutes, then later they increased the rest period for 10 minutes. This has decreased slightly the performance. Okay, the number of rest was reduced to 2 of 10 minutes each. But in the morning, coffee or soup was served along with sandwich, and in the evening, snack was provided. The productivity increased. So instead of changing the time, they have changed the snacks which were offered to the girls. With this, they have changed. So that means the contributing factor for not performing productivity is not the period, the rest period. Rather, it is which is offered, which what they are eating. So hence, that was changed what they've been served. And this changes in working hours and work days were introduced, like cutting off hour at the end of the day and eliminating Saturday work. Girls allowed to leave at 4:30 instead of usual 5 p.m. Due to which productivity increased because the girls were happy, and the same situation is prevailing in today. If you look at various companies and the women's working, such as during pandemic, they happened to choose. They were doing work from home now. For example, TCS is calling back the women, totally by eliminating this work from home culture to work from office, for which people have started resigning, and so the attrition rate in this company has increased. People have become more used to work from home rather than offices. So this change can be here connected. You can connect to see if you do not understand the employee, then your attrition rate will increase. The people will start leaving your company. Okay. In this case, in this test relay assembly test room experiment, if you observe, the girls, when they were not working for Saturdays, they were getting off for Saturdays, and at the same time, every day when they were allowed to go at 4:30 instead of 5 p.m., they showed a lot of improvements in their productivity. So this, as each change has introduced, was introduced one by one. They have observed not only productivity was increasing, but absenteeism was decreased, morale was increased, and supervision was less required. Okay, because you become accountable to what you're doing, provided all these kind of facilities. So it was assumed that these factors are the one which adjusted them and made them more positive. So conditions are reversed with the productivity was supposed to decrease, but it increased further instead of decreasing. So it is concluded in this experiment that productivity increases not just because of the changes in the physical factors, but because of the change in the girls' attitude towards work and the work group. They developed a feeling of stability, sense of belongingness, responsibility, self-discipline because of more freedom of work given to them. The relationship between these workers and supervisors flourished, and they become more friendly, which contributed to the productivity. Okay, then we have mass interviewing system. In the year 1928 and 30, employees' attitude towards companies, supervision, plans, promotions, wages have been focused on in this interview. Okay, during these interviews, they've discovered or they understood that group behavior influences a lot. And the experiments showed that workers' behavior was influenced by group behavior. So this conclusion was not satisfactory, and another set of experiment was conducted. Next, bank writing observation room experiment. This experiment was to analyze the functioning of small group and its impact on individual behavior. 3 soldiers and 2 inspectors were taken, 9 wiremen, 3 soldiers, and 2 inspectors. Hourly wage rate for each worker was based on average output of each worker, while in the order to earn more, the workers will work. But the hypothesis here did not valid. Works decided the target for themselves, which was lower than the company's target. The workers gave the following reasons. Number one being fear of unemployment, fear of raising the standards, protection for slow workers, satisfaction on the part of management, which contributed to the production rate as one being fired and other being rebugged for the restricted output. So the workers in the group set certain norms. And at the end, this study suggested that the relationships are an important factor in determining the human behavior. The supervisors tended to understand and the problems of workers, and management tried to sense their feelings, helpful in formulating the action for resolving management employee conflict. Okay. So next we have implications of Hawthorne experiments. Social factors in output. Here, social factors like Elton Mayo in his research engaged Hawthorne experiment and described social organization is not just in factor for formal structural functions, because here the people's social being characteristics determines the output and efficiency of an organization. Group influences are another, workers being social being, they form informal groups within an organization in order to overcome certain pitfalls of formal relationships. Each group has their own norms, and any deviation from these norms can make the person unacceptable to the group. Thus, the workers cannot be dealt as individuals but as work group. Conflict. The informal groups may have conflict with the formal groups within the organization due to the incompatibility objectives of the two. However, they may help to achieve organizational objective by overcoming the restraining aspect of the formal relationship, which produce productivity. Communication. Communication is a source of information for decision making process, which promotes motivational, and it plays an important role in altering the individual's attitude. Leadership is an important directing group behavior which does not come from formal appointment of supervisors. Leaders, as said, are not made, they are born. Okay, so an informal leader has no formal organizational authority to influence others, but possesses some skills and talents to influence and lead other members of organization. A supervisor is more acceptable as a leader if his style is in accordance with human relationships approach. Next is supervision, which is another implication, being an essential part of management. It enables to put plans into action, work towards accomplishment of goals. A supervisor who is empathetic supervisor climate was more friendly and less authoritative, which helped increasing productivity. So all these are the various implications of the studies, Hawthorne studies, experiments. Next, we have models of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior depends on a model, framework, possibly a structure. In other words, based on various assumptions, values, and the beliefs. Again, it helps us to understand the possible and impossible situations with regards to situation, phenomena, and people. All of these try to balance the stability for the whole system to work as an universe. And so is the model people hold about themselves and what they perceive about management. Okay. And then we have cognitive, behavioral, and social learning models of organization behavior. In this cognitive approach, behavioral approach, and we have social learning approach. See, this is called SOBC model. Okay. And stimuli, organization, behavior, organism, behavior, and consequence. Stimuli is to covered stimuli and the consequential emotional, social, cultural, and technological environment which enables you to give a push towards your work. Organism, cognitive process, mediators, and the psychology being. Behavior, sometimes it is overt and covert responses, pattern of behavior. Consequence, again, positive or negative contingent consequences, and environmental dynamics and applications. These behaviors observable are cognized or realized by individuals, and through an intricate process of assimilation with the attitude, personality, perception, learning, and motivation inside the mind of an individual comes out with a consequent uh, behavior. Social learning approach. This integrates the thoughts and principles of both cognitive and behavioral frameworks. This approach denotes that behavior is explained as a constant reciprocal interaction between cognitive and behavioral and environmental determinant. The theorist which supports this are Albert Banduru, Julian Rotter, Salamick, and five other main scientists, theorists who supports this framework. And here you can see the Bandura's social learning theory, which includes organization, participants, environment, and behavior in a triangle form. Okay, how are these uh, in a triangle form contribute to the understanding? And this you can see the SCT, that's social cognitive theory, and SLT, that is social learning theory, in the 60s were developed by Albert Bandura, and in 1986 this sports learning occurs in social context. All the all about this is how people behave, control, reinforce, and they've been goal directed towards attaining certain goal. So reciprocal determination, behavioral capability, observational learning, reinforcement expectations are the key elements of these SCT model. That's social cognitive theory, okay? Of course, there are limitations of social cognitive theory. Uh, the limitations are it assumes the environmental will automatically lead to changes. It loses organized, solemn, dynamic interplay between the persons and behaviors, does not focus on emotions and motivation. Though it has got certain limitations, the psychology at education communication holds a portions of an individual knowledge acquisition, and they can be directly related to the observing others within the context of social interactions, experiences, and outside media influences. Okay, then we have Kite Davis models of organization, which is based on attributes of models, which is, you can see, are being classified in autocratic, custodial, supportive, and collegial. And each one how and contributes, how it is to be understood for the organization. Relationship between model of organization behavior and theory X and Y. This theory X and Y is very important to be noted. A theory X, theory Y, and very popular theory, which is assumed on human being. And I think we will be continuing, its time up almost. So we will be continuing from theory X and Y in the next class. So yes, we have very little to be done with this unit, but yet we are time up. Let's end this session here now and continue with theory X and Y in the coming session. Thank you all for attending this, and good day. Happy learning to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.